All right, let's get right into it. We're talking about the incredible political drama unfolding in Bangladesh. Seriously, this is a story of a full-blown revolution, some hugely ambitious plans for reform, and a nation that's basically holding its breath, trying to figure out its own future.
And to really get a sense of the stakes here, you have to start with this number, 1,400. That's how many people the United Nations thinks might have been killed during the 2024 uprising. Just think about that. This wasn't some peaceful, orderly change of power. This was a violent, tragic, and absolutely nation-altering event.
So how on earth did Bangladesh get to this point? Well, it happened incredibly fast in what people are now calling the Monsoon Revolution. It started out as a peaceful student protest, They were demonstrating about the quota system for government jobs. But then security forces cracked down hard, and that was the spark. Public anger just exploded, and the whole movement snowballed into a nationwide revolution. And within weeks, literally just weeks, the 15-year rule of Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina was over. Just like that.
So, with the old guard gone, you have this massive power vacuum. Stepping into that gap is a new interim government. And their job is huge. They've got to guide the country to a fair election and, maybe even more importantly, try to rebuild the country's democratic foundations from scratch. And who's leading the charge? A name you might recognize, the Nobel Peace Prize winner, Muhammad Yunus.
Okay, so a new team's in place. What's the actual game plan? Well, their vision isn't just a few new policies here and there. Nope, it's all built around one single, massive, and incredibly ambitious document.
And this is it, the July Charter. You can think of it as the blueprint for what they're calling a new Bangladesh. It's basically this huge agreement, negotiated and signed by a ton of different political parties, that tries to mash together more than 80 different ideas for reform into one cohesive plan.
And when you dig into what they're proposing, wow, you really see just how big they're thinking. I mean, we are not talking about small tweaks. They're trying to fix what they see as the root problems that cause all the crises in the first place. A second House of Parliament? That's to put a check on any single party getting too powerful. Term limits from the Prime Minister? A direct response to prevent another leader from staying in power for 15 years. They're even talking about changing the definition of national identity itself, from being based on ethnicity to being based on citizenship, to try and make everyone feel included.
But you know how it is. Having a great plan on paper is one thing. Actually making it happen, especially in the middle of a national crisis, well, that's something else entirely. And the interim government is running into some very harsh realities.
The first huge problem is just basic security. After the old government fell apart, the law and order situation really started to break down. We're seeing reports of a rise in mob violence, and especially worrying, targeted attacks on religious minorities like the Hindu community. And all this has led to some really sharp criticism. It's not just us saying it. Listen to this quote from a major human rights group in the country. They're basically arguing that, for all the good intentions, the new government just hasn't been able to make people feel safe, and has even fallen back into some of the old bad habits, like targeting journalists and political opponents.
And while all this is going on, people are getting hammered by a brutal economic crisis. Inflation was already a problem, but the political chaos made it so much worse. You can see the rate just climbing and climbing. That means the price of everything, food, fuel, you name it, is squeezing families all over the country.
And maybe this is the biggest problem of all. You know that political unity that was strong enough to topple a government? Well, it's starting to fracture. Big time. Even though lots of parties signed that July Charter, some of the major players are now disagreeing on the details. That's creating huge roadblocks for the very reforms that are supposed to bring everyone together.
So you've got all this hope, all this turmoil, all this tension, and it's all building toward one single, decisive moment where the people of Bangladesh finally get to have their say. The path forward is set. The charter's been signed and a date is on the calendar, February 12, 2026. And that day is going to be huge because it's not just an election, it's also a referendum. So when people go to vote, they're going to face one incredibly powerful choice, a single yes or no on the entire reform package from the July Charter. Think about that. This isn't just about picking new politicians. It's a vote on the very DNA of their democracy for years, maybe generations to come.
Now, when a country goes through this kind of massive internal change, it never happens in a vacuum, right? The effects are starting to ripple outwards, and Bangladesh is completely rethinking its place on the world stage.
For years, under the old government, the foreign policy was pretty straightforward: stay very, very close to India. But the new interim government is making a huge pivot.
Their new strategy is all about one word: diversification. They don't want to be dependent on any single country anymore.
And you can see this happening in real time. They're actively trying to build new bridges everywhere. They're trying to join the ASEAN Economic Group with Southeast Asian nations. They're signing major deals with China. They're even talking with Pakistan about reviving old regional alliances. It's a total strategic realignment.
So is this new approach working? Well, the money seems to think so. In the year right after the revolution, foreign direct investment, that's money from other countries being invested in Bangladesh, shot up by over 19%. That's a pretty clear sign that the rest of the world is paying close attention.
So as Bangladesh barrels toward that 2026 vote, the question couldn't be clearer. Is this transition going to become a model of reform and hope for the whole region? Or is it going to be a cautionary tale of a revolution that lost its way? The answer is going to shape the future for 170 million people, and it could very well redraw the political map of South Asia. The world is watching.